Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rec Room. I hope the appropriate roads have risen to meet you over the past week. If you're new here, my name is Okrins. I'm a Los Angeles-based software engineer, music producer, and ex-terrible content creator who spends slightly too much time in his apartment. I was a radio DJ in college, enjoying playing my favorite music to the greater Boston area for several years, and amid my various ramblings, I am continuing that spirit with this show. Every week I give you some eclectic music recommendations that I think you'll enjoy and wax 14-year-old poetic about what it is I like about these songs or pieces. Last week my laptop, on which I make all my music and edit all my videos, stopped working properly, so I am continuing to shoot and edit these videos entirely on my phone until further notice. Hopefully the quality of the 5 songs I'll share with you today still shines through. Without any further distractions to talk about, let's get started. If you're watching this in the Netherlands and are ever exposed to local pop music, my first pick will probably not be new to you. This is a song by Dutch artist Eefje de Visser called Bitterzoet or Bittersweet from the 2019 album of the same name. De Visser first became prominent in her home country a little over a decade ago after winning a National Music Award for singer-songwriters, and she's been landing album after album in the local charts ever since. Bitterzoet, the LP, shot to number 3 on Dutch pop charts and number 1 in the Flanders region of Belgium after it came out in late January, although this single came out last October. The song is unapologetically poppy, featuring some pretty nice hazy production, muted guitars, and the hushed style of vocals that seems to be dominating these days with artists like Billie Eilish and Justin Bieber. It's very much in the vein of your weekend chilled-out beach playlist in terms of affect, and to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. What I think separates this one from the pack for me, though, are 2 things. First, the sheer variety of the synths involved here, from bleeps and bloops to fuzzy pads and phased-out FM patches, and secondly, the use of parallel key modulation at various points. What that means here is that the verses start out in a minor key but change to a happier-sounding major mode for the choruses. The root note of the song is still the same, but we change scales back and forth over the course of the song to interesting effect. Maybe I don't listen to enough pop music, but I don't hear it a lot in chart-topping songs, and it's employed skillfully here. So, well done, Eefje. I'm really going to have to hold back from turning the following discussion into a 2-hour-long video, but I'll try not to talk too much here. Basically, while I was working on my radio show in late 2018, I fell in love with the music of a British band called Cardiacs who were active between the late 70s and late 2000s. Led by a guy named Tim Smith, who wrote most of the songs, they put out music that could be described as a fusion of punk and progressive rock, or pronk for short. They deeply influenced more well-known groups like Blur and Radiohead in those bands' earlier years, but were mostly hated by the contemporary music press. It's not impossible to see why. Their more experimental songs to the untrained ear can come off as demented circus music, but as someone who loves demented circus music, I was instantly entranced by their truly unique sense of harmony and musical form. My introduction to Cardiacs came because I was playing another really cool artist called Bob Drake on my show, and on the website rateyourmusic.com, someone referred to his album as sounding similar to Tim Smith's music. I got to searching Cardiacs on YouTube, and the first video I found was for a song called Tarred and Feathered, whose main melody has to be heard to be believed. I'll link the song below, as well as another video by an awesome YouTuber called Tantacruel, who's far better than I at explaining why the band is so great. But anyways, within a year, I'd become familiar with Cardiac's entire studio discography, and for my very last radio show on WHRB in May of 2019, I went on the air for 7 hours straight and played it all from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. That whole experience of staying in the studio all night is worth a story in itself, which I'll tell you another time. I've already gotten off track here as I expected, but the song I'm here to talk about today could arguably be called the band's crowning achievement. Cardiacs fans are sometimes split between 2 camps, those who prefer their softer, more proggy tunes, and those who like their more intense but still off-kilter and inspired punk songs. For those in the latter camp, and probably a lot in the former too, a song called Dirty Boy off of their 1996 double LP Sing to God ranks quite highly. Dirty Boy is nothing short of an incredible achievement. It's a 9-minute rager, a raucous song that as many notes starts out intense and somehow keeps crescendoing until its overwhelming conclusion. I really don't get goosebumps often when I listen to music, but the first time I heard this song was probably the most recent time I can remember having them. Now, a 9-minute song that's just the same loud thing over and over again would be absolutely intolerable, but this is not that. As with most Cardiac songs, we are greeted with a smorgasbord of chord progressions and phrases of odd lengths cobbled together into a beautiful mess. Tim intones lyrics that are barely coherent, but tinged with a religious fervor in a sort of mocking way in 2 verses. The verses are separated by a chorus that also functions beautifully as a twisted harmonic progression going up by half steps on each repetition. After the second chorus is done, there's a beautiful through-composed interlude that disorients the listener but then prepares them for the grand finale of the song. On the lyrics Over and Out, Tim sings a single note over the course of 2 consecutive minutes as waves of guitars repeatedly wash over the mix. If you like intense and inventive music, you can't miss this song. It's truly one of the best things I've ever heard. By the way, Cardiacs are not on Spotify, but you should support them by buying their music on Bandcamp. I say this particularly because poor Tim, the genius fundamental to all this, is still recovering from brain injuries he received from a total cardiac arrest in 2008 and needs all the help he can get for rehabilitation. It's hard to follow that one up, so with this next pick, I'm continuing with the theme of inventive but reaching into an entirely different musical tradition. Over the course of my all-too-brief time in college working under the composer Hans Tuchku, I gained a love for electroacoustic and acousmatic music. This is music that is often highly detailed and meticulously assembled from both source recordings and sound synthesis in a beautiful union. It often finds support in academic music departments the world over, though it does not exclusively exist there. If you're used to pop music and are hearing this for the first time, it will probably challenge and broaden your definition of what music is, in a good way. I've decided to periodically feature new works in this style that I feel are underappreciated on this show. The first of these is a piece by the Danish composer Mats Emil Nielsen and collaborator Andrea Neumann called Fragments. This is from Nielsen's release Framework 2, which was put out on February 7th of this year. You'll want to either wear headphones for this one or listen to it on really good stereo-separated speakers. Now, talking about this music requires a more abstract language than I'm used to in these reviews, but I'll do my best. We start out with the sounds of rushing air, and noises may be reminiscent of someone scrubbing or polishing something bouncing back between speakers. This fades and is then punctuated by bass-heavy impacts into a new section featuring electronic interference and low humming. There's a sense of stasis here, but then the track loses all its anchors and you are drawn into the details of sweeping, crackling noises underneath sustained resonant tones. More and more sections like this wash over you, each in a slightly different and varied way, but featuring the same basic crackling and sweeping motifs as building blocks. What I really like about this piece is that it's not always trying to hit the listener over the head with maximum intensity, much unlike the previous song I just discussed. It is a tasteful composition from a fastidious artist who deserves more recognition. Next, we'll take another left turn to look at the music of Them Airs, a post-punk and art rock band from New Haven, Connecticut. Them Airs have been making music for about 3 years now, but in that short span of time they've made 7 releases. They're known for their quirky senses of humor and tireless do-it-yourself spirit. Today I want to talk about a song of theirs called Wade/Cole from their album Union Suit XL, which was released in mid-January. Now, if you haven't been able to tell yet, I love punk music that is brash, unpredictable, and lively, and all these qualities are quite present here. This is a group with a deep sense of rhythm that really knows how to play with the listener's expectations. There are 5 total groove changes here in the space of only 3.5 minutes, by my count, and each of them is as beautifully unprepared as the last. The singer, a guy named Cade, sneers lyrics about rebelling against the behaviors and ideals of one's parents, against commercial slogans and brand name drops. This is all not to mention the tasty use of auxiliary percussion and interesting time signatures sprinkled throughout here. Definitely give this one a listen. I'm way over my word limit on this video already, but I have to talk about one more tune that absolutely merits inclusion here. The song You Think I'm Horny from new dance floor sensation Desire Maria from the album Desire. Desire is from South Africa, clearly versed equally in industrial music and local dance genres like Gqom with its sparse, syncopated beats. They dropped this, their debut album, on the 10th of January. Pitchfork already got to this album before I did, which is a bummer, but the song's worth talking about regardless. The title rather gives away the subject of the lyrics, which are pretty overtly seductive and a suitable subject for a rowdy club. They're sung very well, though, which is a good thing because they are most of what's going on in the song. This takes deconstructed club to a new level. There are some scattered strings and synth motifs thrown around, as well as a pulsating beat, but we are mostly hearing Desire's expressive crooning in both lower and falsetto registers. There's some pretty impressive vocal layering and editing here, which manages to create an almost suffocating atmosphere with only a few basic elements. Best of all is the triplet polyrhythm that comes in about halfway through the song out of nowhere. While my odds of walking into a club playing this are pretty low over the next few months, I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. And there you have it, my top tracks for the week of February 25th, 2020. As always, thank you very much for tuning into my show. Please feel free to check out the description below for links to all these songs and more, and make sure to smash that subscribe button for more music discourse from me. Also, I just made an ever-growing public Spotify playlist featuring all the songs on the show that are available on Spotify, so check that out in the description too. If you want me to talk about a particular track that you like or give me feedback on this series, I just realized that YouTube got rid of personal messages in the 9 years since I was really active on here. So you can't do that, but by all means leave me a comment on this video or DM me on my Facebook or Instagram pages and I'll take a listen. If for some reason you want to listen to some music that I've made, look me up on whatever streaming platform you like or go to okrents.com. Once again, this has been The Rec Room with your host, Okrents. Until next time, have a good one.